There's all kinds of things that you overcome. Let me ask you this question. Has a company ever asked you to steal on behalf of them? It happened to me. Yeah, it was real, and it was at my dream job. So here I was at a fork in the road. Do I do what I've been asked and forsake all my ethics and values? My value, by the way, my number one is integrity. So you can see how that played out. Or do I stand my ground and go a different direction? And I can tell you, it was an easy call. Now, it wasn't easy to handle everything happened after, but resilience is something that we all go through. And the reason why it's called this title, You're Stronger Than You Know, is because it came from my dad. So my dad's been in corporate America for years, right? He was the one that I call if I need questions or help on anything happening for a supervisor, a reorg, you name it. And so one day on the phone, I was talking to him and I said, I don't even remember the topic we were specifically discussing because I called him often. But he said, Megan, you're stronger than you know. And I thought that's a really interesting way to say, you have this, you got this, you can do this, I support you, in these simple words. And it also helped me realize that I could do more than I thought I could. And so that's why I wanted to call it that today, because you are stronger than you know. HR professionals have been put through the ringer. And my intention today is to help you reflect on the lessons that you've grown from, realize what's inside of you, and so that you can not just help your leaders and teams, right? Yes, we're here for other people. That's what I love to do, is help others with what my journey's been. You're helping leaders in organizations, but I'm here to help you and everybody here kind of think about how are you being resilient for yourself? Because when you are resilient, you can help someone else. Anybody been on an airplane and they do the safety spiel and they say, put your mask on first? Yeah, that's what you're doing here. You're putting your mask on so that you can go help other people in your organization. And so as I was preparing for this, it was kind of interesting. An exercise I'd encourage you to do if you're ever curious about if you're stronger than you know. Are you okay over there?
Yes.
You're good? Okay. Don't want a Heimlich maneuver? I know how to do it. Like, we got this. Well, as I was preparing for this, I want to share this exercise I did with you, and then I'll get back to the stealing story. I'll tell you all about that. But I did a white piece of paper. I took it out and I put it on my desk, and I grabbed a black pen. And I just drew like this, wavy line, and it had a couple, like maybe 5 hills, if you will. And so I thought, I'll put all my adversity moments on here and just kind of see what top stories I think would resonate today. So I did that, and I told you 5 hills. Let me tell you, by the end of that, it should have been like this. Because it was full of things that as I wrote more down, more came to mind. And then I'll tell you, I took a pink pen, trying to make sure I was realizing what are the moments I got from those. And I'll tell you, there were more pink moments than the black marker moments. And so what I'd like to share with you today is along my journey around the world, working in corporate, working with different people as a leader of a lot of different teams, both direct reports and the favorite matrix where it's confusing and everybody's everywhere. Yeah. But I'd like to share with you some stories, including the one that I mentioned about being asked to steal, because it set my career on fire in a really good way, but it was really hard at the time. So my boss and I had normal Tuesday meetings, and this happened, a long time ago. But every meeting I would walk in and we would talk about projects, how things were going. And by the way, the company that I'd been working for, I'd been there for years. And it was a dream job because I got to be everywhere. I was the only trainer. So I was in sales helping them. I was in purchasing. I was out in the shop wearing a hard hat and boots. I was in IT. I was helping HR. And the office here in Houston had about 120 people. And to give you some perspective too, my birthday was about 2 months after I had been hired there. My birthday party was 50 people at a bar. 50 people out of 120. I was amazed. But it was so fun, and I blended so well with the culture because it was a family. So very well connected into them, very connected to helping them. Normally I'd be at my desk and get a phone call. Hey, I need some help with Outlook. Can you help me figure out how to sort all the columns or the categories by color? Sure, no problem. Walk down there, help them out. That was my routine. And to even further that, every time I opened up classes like Excel or PowerPoint or SharePoint, I always opened it up from questions people had asked me, so it was really relevant. But when I opened up the class, I may have posted 4 of them, but they filled in about 10 minutes, and I have to open 4 more. So if you can get a feel for the learning environment and the connection and that part, so that's half of the great fit there. But then I also had a champion boss, someone that was an executive that pulled me into executive meetings and showed me what those were like. What are the mannerisms? How are those different? What do you say? How do you handle yourself in them? He sent me all over the world, and I literally changed the world with training, helping people be better at their jobs when a new program was implemented. And they're scary and they're afraid and they don't know what they're going to do and they have to support a family. So I need to keep my job. And I got to go and help people ease through that. So I love that job. And so back to this Tuesday morning, I walk in just like any other day. I sit down at this round table in his corner of his office. He's a little bit further away and he's sitting behind his desk. And he said, so I got a new project for you. And I'm thinking, cool, I get these all the time. What else is it this time? So he proceeded to explain to me that we needed to work with a vendor and see what they did with our data, and then don't sign the deal, come and tell our IT team how to do everything instead. And I'm sitting here thinking to this, I'm thinking, but I know these the team, we can come up with this, and I'm not really understanding why we need to go out external. So he and I are very close. But he's like my work dad, if you will. I've been to his house with his family. I've had Super Bowl parties with them. I've been on fantasy football. I have, the day my apartment was robbed, he came by and helped me. So to say he was like in my circle of people was very true. And so we're very open, right, because of that level. And I said, so you mean steal? And he said, yeah. And I said, I'm not on board with that. And I sat there and I'm thinking, I've been here forever. You know my morals, you know my values, you know who I am. Like, how did this just happen? Anyway, he was furious. He sat there and went off in all these directions for about 5 minutes. And for someone that I respected so highly, he shrank in that chair to me because I thought, I'll never trust you again. Next time you won't be so open and you'll say, no, that's not my objective. And so he was super angry for a while. Okay, so I'm sitting there thinking, you can kick and scream all you want. I'm not giving the little kid candy. Like, sorry, you're just gonna be upset. That's fine. So then it got more interesting. Then he asked an executive who was also like my other boss to come in and say her opinion. So I explained what happened. I said, is this something that you would be on board with? And she said, yeah, if I'm not number one, I'd be stealing to get there. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this day? What happened? What are you drinking? Like, what is wrong? And I just told him, I said, I'm going to think about it, but I'm not on board with the original assignment. So what I did was I went back to my desk and I shut my door and I called my dad, the person who told me you're stronger than you know. And I said, Dad, here's what's going on. I'm a processor, right? So I have to think about it. So I can't just instantly give info. And I realized as I told him, I already knew the answer. I didn't need his advice. Whatever he said didn't matter because I already knew that I wasn't doing it. So I hung up the phone with my dad. I feel reassured. I took a minute to think about it and I go back to my boss's office. And I just kind of leaned on the door frame and I said, hey, if you need me to help with that project, I'd be happy to research, but I'm not comfortable with the original assignment. And he goes, oh, no. And he's back on his computer. No. I've already given it to somebody else, so don't worry about it. But let's just say the next 10 months of my life are really tough because of that, right? The Tuesday meetings were canceled. Emails for work things to get approval were ignored. It was a rough time. And when you're a woo and you like to talk to people and build relationships, that is like nails on a chalkboard, very painful. And so a beautiful moment happened about 4 months after this question I got. And it said, he walked into the break room at lunch, or breakfast. We're making breakfast, and he walks in, and I'm in there, and it's no one else. And 4 months I've been suffering in this stuff, right? Trying to figure out what am I going to say. As HR professionals, you guys coach people all the time to do this. Have a conversation with the person. So I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to do that? Well, a perfect opportunity just stepped right in and said, here I am. So when he walked in, all I heard was take it. Take the opportunity. And so I said, hey, I just wanted to bring up, are you okay? So things seem to be a little off lately. And he said, yeah, the soccer game is this weekend, and I saw blah, blah, blah. And he changed the topic to the TV in the break room. And I brought him right back. And I said, I know you're trying to change the subject, but I really want you to know if you need something, you can talk to me. And from there, it softened it, but I didn't stop looking to leave. Those are moments of resilience, of things of figuring out who you are. So anybody else had resilient moments where you had to figure out, yeah, raise your hand, come on, let's go. Yeah, okay. Anybody deal with something super hard that you had to dig down deep in? Yeah? Okay. What about, did you ever figure out that it built you into who you are? Yeah. Isn't that ironic about resilience, right? It's so painful. It's something that it's an out-of-body experience sometimes, and then it made you better. And I'm a huge collector of quotes, and I saw a quote and it said, first you hurt, then you heal. Or no, first you hurt, then you grow. First you hurt, then you grow. Right? So resilience is a very big topic. So thanks for listening today. I've got more stories that I'm going to share because there's some areas that I think are really critical parts of being resilient, both for yourself and when you're in an organization working with leaders, because we work with people, right? People deal with trauma inside of work, outside of work, struggles as first-time leaders, all of those different things. The first point I want to talk about is the importance of a network. So your network of people that support you are critical. There's actually a lot of books on it. If you're curious on it, let me know. But they've done studies about if you're successful in being resilient and bouncing back, it has to do with a big part of your network. Who is there? So if you think about those resilient moments, right? We just talked about things that you had to dig down deep. Did you call someone? Did you talk to your family? Did you have a friend? What did you do to, who was there with you? Flat tire on the side of the road. My husband came and picked me up and helped me out. If it's something personal, if it's at work, you had a bad day. Or it could be good things too. Resilience is not just the dark parts, but it's also how are you shifting and adjusting. Maybe you got a bonus at work. Did you call someone? That's your network. There was something that happened that I really realized my network when my apartment was robbed in 2014. It was a hard day. Thankfully, I wasn't there. You can have my stuff, take it. I can say that now. I did not say that day. So I lived off of Highway 6, and I lived alone. I was barely making rent, with my new job, and I barely afforded internet just to be able to get online. But I loved it there. I lived there for 2 years. But one day came, and I lived 5 minutes from work, so very close to work. Loved to be able to go home all the time for lunch, heat it up, take a nap, and then go back to work. Very routine. So I get there that day, and the door is open, and I'm thinking, maintenance? And then I see a dent in the door, and I'm thinking, was that there? And then I open the door, and there is a piece of something hanging from the wall, and I'm thinking, are they painting? And I turned around, and the whole door frame had been split. So this is a picture. There's 3 pictures from this actual day. The one on the left is the splintered door frame that when they kicked it in, it splintered the whole door frame. And that strike plate that's this little with those teeny little screws just said, okay, and let them right in. You'll see the wires on the left, this teeny tiny right here. That was where my alarm system was plugged in, where they cut and it's sitting on the couch when I'm walking in. I'm thinking, my whole brain, it was a big moment of shock. I couldn't process it for a good minute of what happened. So I see the alarm system sitting there with the wires hanging everywhere, paint little chips are everywhere from this. And I see ahead of me, my bedroom light is on. And I hear the bathroom vent there. And I'm thinking, I never used that. And I know I didn't leave the light on. So the kitchen's fine. No furniture's moving from the living room. So I'm walking to my bedroom. And then I see underwear everywhere. I see luggage everywhere. I see all of my jewelry. This is my jewelry cabinet, by the way. My grandma gave me that, so this reason it's the tall one, because she had it. It's a family heirloom. But you can see all the drawers just there. It has nothing in it. Then I look in the bathroom. The medicine cabinet is open, and all the, I don't take a lot, Advil and stuff. It's all gone. Some prescriptions, right? Leftover medication, like antibiotics. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I need to get out of here. And so, right, you're thinking, duh. But it was so surreal, I didn't understand. So I got on the hallway, and I called 911 to give it a level of how much messed up I was. I could not tell her my address. Yeah, my brain just shuffled those numbers, and I thought, hello, what's wrong? My body's processing stuff. Thank God she interpreted either GPS or whatnot, but the cop got there. So that was my first call. Second call was to my mom, who lives in Katy, where I grew up. And so she's throwing stuff down and jumping in the car to drive up to help me. And then I called my boss and I said, hey, I can't come back to work. I kind of got some other things going on. And the whole time I'm dry heaving, I am crying, I don't know my name, like it was a mess. Curled up in a ball at one point because the hallway in front of my door was outside, so I'm just waiting for people and processing. The cop gets there, a friend of mine from HR gets there because she and I are good friends, and my boss, after I talked to him, he called her and said, "What's Megan's address? I'm going to her house." So that's how she knew. So she got there faster. She's sitting there with me, the cop's there, they start going through my stuff. And the apartment manager's there by that time. I don't know how they got involved, but I imagine 911 probably let them in. So everybody's there, there's people everywhere. My mom finally gets there. She was awesome. She was in mama bear mode. Who are you and what is your job and where are you supposed to be at? And my favorite one though, one of my favorites was my boss is standing there. She's never met him. And she said, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Mom, that's my boss. Like, we're good. This is the person supposed to be here." And they found cigarette butts in the front of the door. And the cop said, "Megan, do you smoke?" I said, "No, ma'am." And she said, "I'd like you to waive your Miranda rights. Here's a form, but I'd like to take your DNA swab of your saliva and see, if that ever comes up and it's the DNA of who was here." I said, "Yeah." At this point, I'm like, I don't even know my name. Just, okay. So she swabs and stuff, leaves a form for you to fill out of all the different things that were taken. By the way, $11,000 were gone. If it exceeds 10 grand, it's a felony. Just so you know, I learned that, yeah. I mean, we're talking the television, we're talking the laptop that was sat next to the camera that had pictures of all my stuff on it, so for insurance purposes, that was gone. The tablet, all of the medicine, all the jewelry. They didn't touch the kitchen. So if you ever want to hide stuff, it could be a good place to live. My pots may or may not have stuff in it. But it was a hard day. By the time the cop left the form, we started going through my stuff. By the way, the filing cabinet next to my bedroom had been opened, and it had all my bank accounts, all of my payments and stuff, 401k. Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, by the way, passport, that also is missing because they took the safe. The safe was only for burning, not really, and water, not for stealing. Anyway, that's gone. They took a piece of luggage and stuffed all my stuff in it and walked out. And later I find out my neighbors are like, "Oh, we thought somebody was moving in." I'm thinking, okay, they were moving, but it wasn't in and it was not their stuff. And so the rest of the afternoon, we filled out all the form of what was missing. My brother shows up. He's a veterinarian. At the time, he was in school at A&M. He's blazing to Cypress in an hour, super quick. And he comes in, typical Texan, love my brother, with a shotgun. Who is here? And I am coming. And so my whole family was on edge. And then my dad's trying to get out of town desperately from riding the buses. The buses normally start going out at 3, so he's trying to get out. So he gets there later. But together, we all sat down and figured out all the stuff that we needed to do. My parents helped me pack up. My boss even said, "Hey, if you need to go live in a hotel for tonight, like move and don't sleep here, put it on the company tab." You talk about support. That's company and personal blending. See why I thought he was a champion boss? He cared about me. My family was there, backed up, anything I needed. Also, the people at work. All my 50 birthday people and all the people I worked with, they pulled together about $500 and it helped me move because they let me out of my apartment lease and I moved to a different apartment closer to Tomball. And with the small amount of money I had left, I had no jewelry. I actually went on a date and the guy was like, "You don't wear any jewelry?" And I'm like, did you not listen to my story? I don't have anything. This was the bracelet that I bought with that leftover money. It was it's a replica of the one that was taken. Support is critical. And if you're thinking about your own support, it doesn't have to be just at work and at home. Because of COVID, our lives are blended. You have virtual meetings in people's houses. You are seeing their family walk by, photos, right? It's a blend. So that support network is key. I will tell you, fun fact, the guy's in jail. They caught him a year later. He did it. He was a serial one all along Highway 6. Yeah. I got called in as a witness one day, and I thought, I didn't witness anything. And I actually went to the IT team that I was in, and I said, "Is this spam? Can you tell me if this is real?" And they did all their searching. They said, "No, it's legit." But yeah, he was caught, and they piled in all 8 women to be witnesses. By the way, that DNA spot on match from those cigarettes. So to sit there and see that person, I gotta say, it's not something I really ever needed, but I can say after I did that, I was like, all right, cool, I'm good. You just take it. I was fine because he left me alone. Resilience happens when you dig down deep, but also that support is that mindset, right? Of I can do this, I'm not alone. I have people that believe in me, I can have help. And when people come into your office and they have traumatic instances from home, that affects how they lead. That affects the filter they see their team in. That affects a lot. Anybody have an employee assistance program? Yeah, anybody use it or give it out like the name? Yeah, I've used it before. That's my next story. Because it's not just the personal stuff that's there, but it's also when you have someone in front of you, it's important to offer those tools that you already have, because that is a very good tool. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a counselor. I'm a coach, very different things. I'm not qualified to handle and dig down deep into a lot of things, right? But some other people are, so I can connect them. And it happened when I was in an organization. I was a leader of 10 people, and I get a call in the middle of my whole day-to-day back-to-back meetings, which we enjoy now. And it was one of my team members, and I thought, something's wrong. She never really calls me because texting is normally most people's thing during the day, at least our team. And she said, Megan. I said, yeah, what's going on? And she said, so-and-so on our team, because she was leading a project, they're talking about suicide and how they don't think they need to be here, and they don't think people care. And so she tells me that they had a conversation. She listened to him, and she said, okay, well, what do you need from me? So she had this great leadership moment with him. And then she turned and called me, and she said, I don't know what else to do. And I said, okay, so we have an EAP. She said, what is that? And I said, an employee assistance program for the, if you haven't seen them. It's usually through your insurance, and it provides counseling sessions. Our company happens to give you 6 sessions for free. Okay, so I don't have the number. I'm brand new leader there, so I'm still learning all the policies. And I said, let me get that for you. I also, does he want to talk to someone else? Does he want to talk to upper leadership? We can go as far high as he wants. And she said, no, I think he just wanted to talk to me because we're good friends. And I said, okay, what do you think he'll think about this number? And she said, I think he'd like it. So I hang up, go get the number. I'm texting HR business partners. Anybody have HRBP here? Yeah? Oh, those are my people. You guys know lots, and I always came to you for help. And so I call a couple of HRBPs that I've been working with on projects, and I said, hey, I need the AAP number now. And they asked me the natural question, why? And I said, here's what's going on. And she said, do you have their name? And I said, yes, but I'm very concerned about confidentiality and you talking to them. I don't think that's appropriate right now. She said, okay, but rightfully chain of command's got to go up to relevant people. So I give my employee the number. She gave it to the gentleman, and I said, I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow. Let me know how it goes when you talk to him. So I call her first thing in the morning. I said, hey, so how are we? What are we thinking? And she said, well, he loved the fact that it was 6 free sessions because he doesn't have the money to pay for it, but he really needs to talk to somebody. And he's really excited that he has somebody to do that with. That's the power of HR. That's the power of resiliency and networking and that support piece that you guys offer. You are part of their network, right? I just told you I called HRBPs all the time. I don't know this policy. What the heck am I going to do with this employee? There's all kinds of things that happen. But it's also the tools that you have are very good tools, and there will come an opportunity for you to use them. Just depends on what exactly walks through your door. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about the support network. What I wanted you to do at your table is for a few minutes, I want you to just share with your team or your table, who's your support network? Make it real to you because you have that. Who do you talk to? Who's your go-to person? Is it your spouse, your kids? So I'm going to give you like a minute or two. So go ahead and share because I want this to be real to you as well so that you're all on this journey with me. Okay? On your mark, get set, go. All right, a few more seconds to wrap up. All right, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. There you go. All right, how did that feel? You realize the people that you have there? Yeah, you're not alone. And you have all the people also, the network you're building today. And now you have me. It's as you grow, that network shifts and evolves. Now I want to move on to our next point that I want to share, and that's all about creative solutions, which I am a huge believer in. So resilience is when something doesn't go the way you planned or liked. How do you bounce back from that, right? Well, creative solutions is a really big deal. In HR, you do them all the time. You figure out something else, another way to go route around. If there's an employee issue, a leader that needs help, project that doesn't go on plan, or an executive says, hey, scratch the strategy, we're going in a new direction. All of those have creative solutions. So what I'd like to do is share some stories to help you think about your own. How are you doing that every day? Because even as I wrote this presentation, I've noticed I'm recognizing it more now too of, oh, well, the road's closed, so I'm gonna go I-10. Or something very simple, like I have a flat tire, I'm gonna take Uber instead. It happens all the time. So your little hills are gonna be like this too. One of my favorite stories is from Dubai. I was blessed to travel and train all around the world. And by the way, this is a big deal for a girl from Katy, Texas that did not travel much outside of Texas growing up. I'd been to Vegas when I was 21, I'd been to Disney World, so that's about all. But when I landed this international job, that was a big reason for it, is I thought, well, I've never done that. Why not try? And so Dubai was a world in the Middle East that was very different than most, and much different than anything I'd been for that job at the time. This is one of my favorite pictures from that trip. Does anybody tell what kind of soda this is? What is this? Gotta love marketing, right? Everybody knows those colors. But look how the different language. I just thought it was so beautiful. And as an artist, I recognize color, and you still get the feel. By the way, they have Texas Roadhouse there. I was super proud. This is another photo I have. Like, they know us. In fact, when I always traveled internationally, I'd get into a cab in the UK, and they'd say, oh, where are you from? And I'd say, Texas. Most people say the country. Well, Texas is the country. Right? So it was this amazing place of learning something different and seeing something so foreign to what I'd always grown up with. These were camels. They were wild camels that migrated towards the sun. So in the morning, they would all walk down this way, and as the sun set, when we were about to leave, they'd all come back. They always looked like they needed a good meal to me because they got that scrawny sides, but it was neat to see that because I look out and I see rain and trees like we have, or just simple things here. That's me with safety boots and stuff on because I was training all the shop people, and this is a picture of the shop. In fact, the weather is so hot there during the summer when we were there that it gets about 115 degrees. So the metal gets so hot that the workers could only move metal in and outside, inside to outside and vice versa, in the morning or in the evening. Right? So you're talking a shift to the way, safely so they wouldn't get burned. Now this is where my story picks up. This is my training room. My job was to teach a training program that our internal IT team had made. Imagine manufacturing of that metal. It's got to be cut. It's got to be moved to a lathe machine to put holes in it. It's got to do all things through that shop. And so the program that I was teaching was what our team wrote on how to track all of that. And so these people coming in, we're going to learn that because this project was launching there, and it was going to change the way the company worked. So I thought it was really cool. Never been to Dubai before. Told you my history. Still love Texas, but never been that far into something different. So I got to tell you, I was really nervous. Excited, but nervous. And so we're talking about creative solutions. So I'm going to highlight some areas for you. Number one, safety. Right? Oil and gas. Safety is number one. You want your family to be safe, like the whole shebang. It's real. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to Dubai. My doctors are in Houston. If something happens, how am I going to get help? So I'll tell you, I travel as a walking pharmacy. If you ever travel with me, you need it, I have it. But it made me feel like if I need something, it's over the counter. I trust it. I can read it. There was a time in Germany where I had an eye vessel pop, and I had to go to the apothecary there. Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I need help. I just pointed at my eye. They didn't speak English, so I'm just like, help. I get out my translator, and I had to take medicine that I'd never read before, and it was really scary. So I'm Googling every single word on that thing, and it said, everything that I had, it was fine. By the way, that healed in a day. Yeah, it was amazing. So anyway, back to the story of the medicine that I carried, I trusted, I read that, I knew what it was for. So the safety part is one. How am I going to be resilient around safety? Because I want to go, I am going, but how am I creatively going to solve the problems that I'm feeling? So medicine, I started carrying it with me. Cool. It fit in and I carried extras and I carried too much, but that's fine. Number two was I went to my doctor and I said, look, I'm traveling overseas. I need some shots. And he sent me to this specialized place where they They show and research all the different things going on around the world, the spikes and everything. They give you a pamphlet and you can pick like a menu of what you want, right? I can tell you one of those shots was like liquid lava. But I got boosters, I got tetanus, like juice me up. I don't want to, like, we are fortunate here in the US to have lack of a lot of things around the world. And even though I'm going to Dubai, the actual city is very westernized, love the city, very safe, but people are on the plane from everywhere on the world. So I just need to make sure I'm safe. So check that one. And then I also really wanted to make sure, the Syrian missile crisis was going on. Have you ever tracked that on United and you look at where the flight pattern goes? Guess where it goes over? From Dubai to Houston, you go over Syria, or at least the pictures I saw. So we worked with our upper management team trying to figure out, and United and government, like what are the regulations, what's being recommended? Because you can imagine my mama bear I told you about, not happy about Syrian missile crisis and her only daughter going to Dubai. So anyway, that got solved and is sorted out. But also it was clothing too. I was told to carry and I talked to people in the company. That was another piece of what I did was I talked to people that had been there before and I said, what do I need to know? My mom said, you need a fake wedding ring so somebody thinks you're taken and that I'm like, all right, I could do that, Walmart. I could just find a pretty ring. But I asked my coworkers and they said, no, you don't need a ring. But cover your shoulders and your knees. And so that was pretty simple. Dress conservatively and always go around with people from work. And we had a team of 5 people, so it's no problem. Safety, all right, went around creative solving, cool. Next up, the people I'm training don't speak English. Okay. Opportunity. Did I think, oh no, I can't go. You gotta hire someone else. Heck no, I didn't. I said, how are we fixing this? And so I had calls with Dubai management and I said, I need some translators. So they had in that classroom, right where that table is, and then one on the other side by the window, I had 2 translators in there at all times. That was interesting training. If anybody's a trainer, you talk about 3 sentences and you stop. And then you let them talk for about 10 minutes. Everybody's talking and you're just like, I have no idea what's going on. And then it comes back and we move through it. So I was there for 2 weeks. We trained all of the shop workers. They came back through and the launch went great. Okay, another part of that also was a handout. So if I'm going into the shop, there are TVs on the screen or on the wall that have directions on them so they could learn the buttons. And knowing they didn't speak English was helpful, so I didn't write out text or anything. I needed just the pictures of the buttons. So if you just look for visuals, you'll have it. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm gonna do 2 columns because it's like a newspaper. It'll save me some space, the buttons are small. And English goes from left to right. But other languages go from right to left. So what do I do? So I had another meeting with the on-site reps and I said, okay, so do I need to reorder this to make them more comfortable and easier to understand and read? And they said, no, this will be fine. So I just left it like you and I would do here. And then they learned to use them in the class. You can work around the problems. It's just a matter of how do you come up with creative solutions and how do you ask other people to get involved in the boat with you. Now, the last one was interesting too. Anybody that has training or set up or have meetings like a host like this, what about setting up a training room that's 8,000 miles away? Me, personally, when I set up a training room, normally I am putting pamphlets out on the desk, ordering lunch, I have snacks, I have all kinds of things for anybody there. You want them to feel at home, right? And I like to put the best foot forward. But how am I gonna do that? Simple. HR coordinator there helped me. Not only did she buy stuff that they liked, because I have traveled to Singapore and tried to share Snickers bars, and they're like, what is that? We want something else. Okay, right? Oh, fair enough. It's different. It's unknown. So the person on site for Dubai bought all the candy and the food and the drinks that they liked. I got feedback when I got there, right? Feedback is a gift, they say. It's not the funnest all the time, right? Let it wash through you. And I heard that I was treating my learners differently than the system or the society treats them. And I said, okay, I don't really know what to do with this. We've already, the train is in motion and it is there. And so I thought I had messed up. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just my intentions were to treat people right and the best foot forward. But I'll tell you, on day 2, that feedback came Monday when we were there and they're like, oh, corporate's here. Yeah. Well, I heard that feedback. And then day 2, I'm thinking, we're gonna keep going because it's too late. And we've already got drinks. This, by the way, was the little refrigerator they brought in because those technicians are really hot outside. And I said, I want cold drinks for people, please. So they come in and enjoy a cold drink. The t-shirts right there, I had to figure out how long it took to get through customs from Houston all the way over to Dubai and then customs so that we could give t-shirt giveaways. It was all about working that setup. You had to backlog time, allow for things to happen. But I'll tell you on that day too, around this corner, I was over here by this window and I was picking up pencils between the classes. Class cleared out and a gentleman walks over and he has a shirt on his arm and a grape soda in his hand. He's got a mustache and his blue jumper that they wear in the shop. And he just looks at me and he says, thank you. For someone who didn't speak English, for customs and society that I wasn't following. People matter. And clearly it resonated with him. That was one of my favorite moments ever abroad because it just shows the kindness of people, the gratitude. Had he not done that, I would have left that trip thinking, ooh, I don't know how that went. Feedback is great because that was a great piece of it. But creating those solutions to all of that, how do I set up a room that's 8,000 miles away? The effort was there to creatively figure it out. Had I walked in there and said, this is the way we do it in the States, this is what I don't care what everybody else wants, this is what I want, I would have missed all these cool things that happened. The different sodas that they liked. It's about them. You guys do that all the time in HR. How can you help a leader? How can you help the executive? How do you help each other? What do you need? It's not all about us, is it? That resilience piece ties right in back to that support network. How are you supporting someone else that's different from you and that needs a creative solution? Creative solutions also go more serious into work too. So Dubai was, I would say, a light example just because it's not the deep and dark robbery and stealing and stuff like that. But I had this happen to me where a peer went to a supervisor, and this is something, has anybody seen that happen in org? Yeah, is it usually blue skies and bunny trails? No! Yeah, that's about how mine went too. Yeah, only I was the peer, which is cool. I didn't mind it, but it did not go well at all. So my number one move was to go to HR and talk about things that were going on. And I also went to the interim boss that was helping us assimilate. Had this happened for you guys too? If you're trying to get in and you're trying to help the transition. Yeah. So I went to the VP. She gave some help and some coaching, which was cool. And then it escalated because then I submitted my performance review. Here's how I think I did this year. By the way, we didn't have goals, so I made my own goals. Here's how I think I met those goals. And then I got feedback. So this was a hard day. I got a call. I was already on vacation, right? It was 5:30 in the afternoon. I was already driving home, almost there. And I get a call from a vice president in our group, and I'm thinking, this is weird. So I pick it up thinking she needs something. And it was a 15-minute conversation that I said 4 words in. And she said, I know you're on vacation. Okay, so you know that, but you're still calling. And she said, I need you to rewrite your performance review. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do that. I said, okay. She said, let me give you some feedback on it. I don't think you need to put this in there. This doesn't need to be in there. I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't do this. You know, it's your decision, but I would recommend that you rewrite it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm missing something. Because the environment had been pretty toxic given all of the transition and everything happening. So I'm thinking, maybe I missed something. So I said, okay, I understand. Those are my words. And I hung up the phone. I got home and I messaged an HR business partner. Told you, they were my friends because I needed help. My network. Can you review my performance review? I'm kind of curious what you think about it. And I said, she said, yeah, of course. So I sent it to her. I didn't say a word about what was going on in our department or our team. Not a word. I wanted an unbiased, unjudged, ice-cold view of what I was writing in that review. Guess what she said? This is a great review, Megan. I said, really? I said, doesn't it come across, in a certain way? And she said, no. I maybe would tweak this or add something here, but I think it's great. So I told her what was going on, and I said, this is the feedback that I got from my leader. This is what I was told to do, and you told me the opposite. So I'm kind of thinking something's going on here. And she escalated it to her boss. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go again with some hard, bumpy roads. Am I going to have a target on my back is what I literally asked her. Because this is about to go up, and my boss is over here, and I'm going this way, and I'm going over. And I'm not a rookie. I know stuff happens, and people have emotions, right? I'm trying to do right by things, but I'm also trying to make sense of things. So that associate vice president escalates it to legal. And I'm like, oh, here we go again, right? Put on big girl pants. And I'm walking through and I'm thinking, all I'm doing is trying to stand by my values here. I just want fair treatment and I wanted to put in a good review. So I redid the review and I made it longer. And when I send it, I just reorganized it. You need it different? Sure. But it's all in there. And by the way, I added about 10 more metrics that I've met and exceeded. So I sent it in. They loved my boss and the VP that had called me to ask me to redo it. Life moved on. Thanks for submitting it. But then weeks go by, and I have a meeting with the VP, a skip level meeting, and she said, by the way, I know you reached out to HR, and I know you asked them about this review. By the way, if you ever need questions, you should probably reach out to your leadership team instead. And I said, I didn't have any questions about what you needed. I was made very clear on the phone call. I was asking for help in other ways. So being able to have those creative solutions, I had a roadblock. Okay, so performance review. I'm gonna step around that. I'm gonna go build who can I help to see if I am in the wrong. And I built another roadblock of, well, the AVP wants to escalate this. Okay, is it worth it? Is it not? The creative solutions that come with that. By the way, they hired an executive coach for us by the end of it. Yeah, so creative solution, 2 people not getting along, performance review happening, things happening, another creative solution. Executive coach, go help them. So there's tons of opportunities to do this in your business. And I only share my own story because, well, that's what I have. And it's an honest account, and it's honest of trying to figure out how do I best work in an organization, add value to a team. How did I work with HR? Because before I left corporate, I was HR. I was in training and development. I was always in HR. Well, beyond that, I want to talk about my third point. So we've talked about your network being important. We've talked about your creative solutions. And now we're going to talk about some of the biggest things that came out of COVID. Anybody have an idea? Come on, what came out of COVID besides the
remote work?
Remote work. Okay, not that one yet. But okay, what else we got?
Resilience.
Resilience, that is a good one. A little bit more into a certain area that people are being more active now. Exercising, mental health and awareness. Yeah, that's a big one to come out, at least it's in training a lot. There's a lot of programs coming out. When I was in corporate, there was programs coming out with apps, things that you could do and participate in. This is my team when I worked in oil and gas. This person's in Houston, Florida, Houston, and Brazil. And my person from Scotland wasn't there that day. Mental health and awareness is really important as you talk about resilience. Why do you think that? Anybody live that? You have maybe healthy habits or exercise makes you feel good and stress relief? Yeah, Renee's over there like, yes, absolutely. All right, there we go.
Starts at 5 o'clock every morning.
That is commitment. I applaud you. Yeah. So mental health and self-care is really important. And it came really to a head for me during COVID. I had a team of 5 people that were around the world. Most of them were in this picture. And our team was getting burnt out. International teams were working 24 hours a day because by the time Houston was on, Australia was going to bed, but they were staying up for Houston meetings. I mean, I saw so many people working so many hours, and I'll be honest, there's nothing to do. We're stuck at home, right? You have terrible things in the news happening. It's fear-based. There's a lot of things happening just to shake our world. And so part of leading a team remotely was figuring out how do I, as their leader, help them not burn out. So here's a tool. We're going to take a shift here. We've been talking about support for things that you have tools to, but I also want to take a different turn as a leader. How do you help your team be resilient? Now, this is a picture that Maria was in on. That's how it got recorded. I didn't record it. I saw it flicker on right before I started to do the intro, and I thought, oh, this will be cool. Never thought about a video. But what happened was we were meeting tons. The team was burning out, and it was right as COVID hit. So it was like maybe 2 months in. 3 months are happening, 4 months are happening, so it's getting more and more this dull trench that we're in. And so I'm noticing this, and I think, okay, what can I do as their leader? I have a meeting with them once a month about team stuff, and I do one-on-ones with them. All right, we're doing more of that. So I did a weekly meeting for the whole team for an hour every other week, and what I did was bring them together, and I did a couple things. Number one, I made all of them on the team in charge of something. Team lead of, I believe I had team lead of, it was the CFO was Maria, as you can tell, the one that recorded it. Chief Fun Officer. I made all of them in charge of something that was their strength. Robbie really liked diversity and inclusion. Robert really liked being able to get quality. He was watching metrics on quality. And Tatiana, my friend there, she was in charge of making sure that all of our stuff was translated from English to Portuguese. That was her job. So I expanded their job, expanded their leadership. But the reason why you're looking at this photo today, which is one of my favorites, is we had a project that was due, and we beat it. We were actually early. So what am I going to do? During COVID, the what didn't change. The how changed. How do you celebrate? We can't take a team to lunch. Restaurants are closed. Everybody's around the world anyway. I can't bring them together. That's the opposite of what we're doing. And so what I did was my lovely husband helped me build 100 balloon drop in my office. And that was a lot of fun because, well, it gave us something to do together and it was different. So I had 100 balloons up there. I also made a sign you can kind of see back there. I had printed at Walmart. It said cream of the crop. And I had everybody virtually sign it. So they picked a color of pen and I signed their name in my room. And I showed them on the laptop screen. I leaned it back and I said, here is the balloon drop we're gonna do. I have a string here. You're gonna count with me and we're gonna do a balloon drop. So that's exactly what happened. So I go 1, 2, 3, and I pull it. And by the way, I had practiced so it didn't be like a dead moment where there's no balloons like, no, so I pulled it and there's balloons everywhere. And this is the picture that, you know, was the favorite frame in that video. But look at the joy here. That's one thing I added in was, how do you celebrate the people, right? There's so much doom and gloom when COVID pandemic was happening, and it's still going on, right? But another thing that I would encourage you to do is be able to not only just celebrate with them, but how do you add fun back into the team meeting? Because that team meeting that I bumped up from just once a month was every other week. My CFO right here loved doing games. So what did I do? I don't have time for games. I've got to manage all these meetings, but I'm going to break the ice with my team. And I said, Maria, I need you to go make some games. I want 30 minutes to an hour. Every single meeting that we have as a team, I want you to put a game in. Because we're still getting work done. We're talking throughout the day, the entire day. But they're not going to take a break. They didn't. They didn't take vacations. Nobody was taking breaks at all. And I said, you're not going to do any work during my time with you because you're going to take a break. Because we're already doing a ton of stuff. It's not like we're not being productive. But I can tell you, those meetings were always like this. She came up with categories. You want to know playing Portuguese as a first language? You know how that went? It was awesome as a team, but then she had special rules because we were figuring out she didn't have any words that matched anything that we were playing categories with. My favorite one was a communication lesson. So Maria drew a graphic and whoever volunteered, she emailed it to them. And that person, it's the guy that's not on here, he had articulated out loud, describe it to the team, and all of us were drawing remotely, and then we're going to show it on camera. How did the communication go? Favorite line ever. And actually, Maria learned a lot from that activity because she thought it would go like we do here. Well, when they describe it, it was the star is 5 inches by 5 inches, 2 inches from the top of the paper. Not everybody uses the system of metrics that we use. And at the end of the activity, somebody said, what's an inch? And Maria said, oh, I didn't even think of that. So it's adding the fun back in based on what the team needs because they needed a break. And that mental health is super important because I'm standing here today telling you that I've left different situations that really jeopardized my health. I left things that were, I wasn't eating breakfast. I wasn't eating lunch. I was working through meetings, grabbing a bag of chips because there's lunch meetings going on. So ask yourself, is it normal in your organization to have a lunch meeting? Or are you encouraging people to have human time to go take a minute, take a break, and go eat lunch? Watch it because it happens. And what you're going to see is that leaders are starting to disengage, and that's what happened to me. There was no form of return. And the funny thing about what I think, anyway, about wellness and mental health and resilience, I think that was a slow slope for me that I didn't notice until it was way far gone. And I'll tell you that in December, I had an eye exam where I had a really large hemorrhage in my left eye for the first time in my entire life. And I've been going to the doctor since I was in 4th grade. Stress, yes, my friend. Yeah, 100%. I had other blood work came back. I was pre-diabetic, one of 2 factors. First time in my life. I'm 36 years old, y'all. And I eat healthy and I exercise, not a lot at that time. But mental health and wellness is very important. So make sure you're doing it for yourself, because your health is key. Put that mask on yourself first. You've got to step away from the breaks or from the work and take breaks. What about a walk and talk meeting? Have you ever done those? Whole team. Nobody on the computer, get on your phone, and we're walking. Like, you better go somewhere. Oh, they're amazing. I was at my parents' when I did one with this team, and they met my parents' chickens, because I'm walking around the yard and like, hey guys, look at this right here. You get to know people, but it's also a mental break. So mental health and wellness is very important, because for your own reasons too. You got family. My mother-in-law right now just got out of the hospital with cancer. Taking care of people, taking care of loved ones. They bring all those things into their office. They bring them all to you when they're trying to be a leader, projecting things of their past onto someone else because they're dealing with things. Yeah. Anybody feel like they've been resilient in life? Yeah, let me hear you go. Yeah, yes. Because resilience brings amazing things to your life. It brings amazing opportunities. And I'm standing here now. After that moment where I left that job, or the job where I was asked to steal, I doubled my salary in 5 years. I've traveled all around the world. I've worked for top companies in all of Houston in over 10 industries. I've trained, like the intro said, about Disney Institute. I am a sponge, and I've been freed from just staying in the place that I thought I was going to retire from because of that event. And if you draw your own squiggle line up and down, I'd encourage you to do that. In fact, if someone's struggling and walks in your office, you feel free to use it. Because what they're going to notice is there's more good things that happen than the bad. The bad things or the challenges, they're going to be there always. Why? Because they're making you into who you are. You're appreciating it. You're working with other people. And I think, honestly, life just is hard. But the good news is you have each other in your support network. You have lots of creative solutions that you can come up with. If you're in a roadblock and you're stuck, I go talk to my husband, who is now my board of directors, I like to say. So talk to people, come up with creative solutions, and you've got to put yourself first. And if you think of it like a cake, that's the first layer is that support network. Second layer is your creative solutions. The top layer is that self-care. What's the icing all around it? That's optimism. Because there's going to be amazing things that come into your careers, into your doors when you're at work, personal, professional. There's going to be so many great things. So I encourage you to think big. When things are hard, dig down deep and find that grit, because things are going to happen to us. But always, always remember that your bounce back will always be greater than your setback. Thanks, y'all.
So this is my first time at a Texas Bay Area SHRM luncheon. So I thought it was super inspiring. The talk today from Megan that talked about resilience was super, super personal. It hit close to home, made me feel very grateful for where I'm at in my career, thinking back on the number of people who support me in my network, the number of creative solutions I've had to come up with. I feel like I have some inspiration for today, so I feel very, very excited to go back to work and to just continue to lean on the people who support me, continue to be the HR professional that I am, and to be better. Remember that I have help, and yeah, that's how I feel about today.
Did you find yourself relating to the things Megan was talking about?
Absolutely. So I actually just went up to her and told her that I really enjoyed her speech because, like I said, being an intern and just graduating college, I'm trying to find my way and who I'm supposed to be as an adult. And hearing Megan's stories and how they're so relatable and taking each step to get to where she was now, it's really empowering and makes you really reflect and kind of doesn't make you feel so alone.
Anything specific that you took away from what Megan said?
I think my biggest takeaway from today was just remembering that you do have a support system, even if it's someone from work or someone more personal in your family or your friend in your circle. I think it's so important to have that reminder to lean on people. She also mentioned how important it is to be human in your work. I know that as HR professionals, we feel as though we wear many hats, right? we have to be coaches, we have to be mentors. No, we don't. There's an employee assistance program for a reason, you know? So I think it's just important to remember to have human moments as an HR professional. Take that walk, take that lunch break away from the office, away from the desk, because that is a part of being resilient is taking care of your health, taking care of yourself. You can't help others and be a champion for others as an HR professional if you're not taking care of yourself and your health first. So that was my biggest takeaway from